So a little behind the scenes here. We watch the movie and we take a break, and then we come back and discuss it. And for a hot second, I was like, "Have they ever had a guest not come back?" Like, like I was like, "Well, if I left, I'd also have to like nuke my own Twitch stream, like get off of Twitter, just like ghost social media entirely."
Forever,
And I was like, "It might be worth it. It might be." It might be to just never have to talk about this film ever again.
Well, welcome to Ruff Cuts.
Dogs, they're coming. They're coming your way. They'll be here soon.
Universal Pictures invites you to a world before time, before civilization, before America's favorite Stone Age family was a family.
This is an exciting time for us, isn't it, Barney?
Sure, Fred. No job, no money, no women. Things are really looking up.
To the town of Bedrock. Where something exciting.
Are you hurt?
Oh, no, Betty, I'm fine.
Was about to happen.
You want a date? Your little friend want a date too?
Barney, tonight we shower.
So, welcome to Ruff Cuts, our podcast about good boys and bad movies. I'm gonna chop up something from the beginning. We're fine. Don't worry about it. Hey, listen, I'll have put more effort into this than they put into that movie, so we're good.
Not the costume designers or the set designers.
No.
Those people put in the fucking time and work.
Oh yeah,
They might be the only ones, though. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Well, and then imagine that you have to go around constantly being like, no, I'm a really good set designer. Look, I have credits on Viva Rock Vegas. And have every single person laugh you out of the room every time. And you're like, God damn it, I did, though. We nailed it. And it's they did.
It's like the first Suicide Squad movie that was awful is Oscar-winning Suicide Squad because the costume design won an Oscar. It's one of those situations.
I guess, yeah. Like, you can have good parts to a film without the whole film being an absolute disaster. It's true.
Anyway, this podcast that I was introducing is about good boys and bad movies. Bad dog movies. And hey, we've got our special guest here, our common companion, Nick, who definitely doesn't regret this one. What did you say during the recording?
This one was hard. Like, we've done a few in the past. And I was saying, when we were recording, I was saying that we were watching the movie, that I feel like those movies were at least a little entertaining, and this movie just felt like you were just like sitting there aging. Like, I felt myself aging while watching this movie.
Welcome to your first Ruff Cuts.
Yeah, man.
This is the first real bad one, yeah.
This is like, it was real bad.
This is very standard. This is bog standard for the stuff that we do. Yeah, no, most of the time we sit here and you just like, you can feel like the crow's feet expanding under your eyes.
So, here's another little behind the scene. When we have guests, we usually try to pick good ones and give a choice of things that we're like, this will probably be entertaining.
Yeah. I kind of picked this one though.
You did. This is your fault. Because
I was like, because I saw this Flintstones movie features, was it the Great Gazoo? I forgot what his name is.
Gazoo. Nobody can get his name right. It's it's hard to say.
He's like the little alien guy in the old Hanna-Barbera cartoon, and anytime he was on screen, it was like a fan favorite. I remember watching Flintstones when I was a kid, and those episodes seemed pretty great.
Yeah.
However, he's really awful in this. You see him in live action, and you're like, you just want to like hit it with a baseball bat.
It's kind of like the Bond head in Mars Attacks.
Yeah,
is how they went to try and get this to work. People were mad about MODOK in Ant-Man, but they haven't seen the Great Gazoo in Viva Rock Vegas. So, you know.
I mean, you're saying that you're talking about how they kind of went for the Bond head in this. And I'm like, yes, but that doesn't really do it justice because they also gave him a weirdly big pointy nose in a way that doesn't really happen most of the time.
Yeah.
And then so it's Alan Cumming, and they shaved off his eyebrows basically.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But then repainted them on in but in skin. Like he has skin brows.
Because they had to make him an alien. So they're like, oh, let's make him look weird. But they went too far.
They did it. They managed.
Yeah, because the costumer was given the direction. Yeah, the costumer was given the direction. Can we make him real sexy? And then this is what they came up with, right? So it makes perfect sense.
This movie is like simultaneously extremely horny, but also like no libido.
Yeah.
Well, it's about coasting. Yeah, you don't have to do any effort to get, laid and find a partner and you just coast through life. Yeah, that's all you need.
But also simultaneously, when you do find that partner, congratulations, you're trapped in a marriage now.
Yeah.
That's
wow, my life, am I right?
Yeah. The old ball and chain.
Wow, that kills at the old water buffalo lodge.
This is an incredible experience to me. Every once in a while, I kind of forget what my job is in real life, like outside of the podcast and everything, and that other people don't have my perspective on it. Because you get both of you watching this movie and going like, Jesus Christ, it's just about how awful marriage is, and also how they absolutely 100% definitely always need to get married as soon as possible to everybody. And I'm like, I'm a wedding photographer. This is just
a day in the life.
Yeah,
85% of the weddings that I do.
85%?
That's a large number, actually. Wait a minute.
That is huge.
I can guarantee you I have been to at least 100 weddings where the entire thing is constantly like, who's gonna wear the pants in this one? Oh, now she's gonna be a real pain in the ass, huh? Over and over. Yes. Man. Oh, yeah. At least 100.
Yikes. Well, they would love this movie then. It said right on the poster that you'll love it. They'll love it.
It's surprising that it flopped for how much it just goes to the heart of what, conservative marriage is.
Speaking of the heart, so Viva Rock Vegas is a sequel, sort of,
it's a prequel
to the 94 movie, and then it's a prequel. But it's...
They have a word for this, yes. Yeah.
But why is it a prequel? Nobody gives a shit how they got married. Nobody cares. This isn't a story that needed to be told.
I know why it's a prequel.
Mm-hmm.
I read on the trivia that this movie was made because who was the original Fred Flintstone?
John Goodman
In the previous movie.
Yeah.
Said he would never fucking do it again. He actually had to be roped in to do it in the first place. When he was on set, he was like, I hate this movie. I don't want to be here. Get me out.
Yeah, John Goodman is way too good for that. Yes.
Yeah. So he was like, I don't want to do the sequel. And then Rick Moranis retired from acting. So that was 3 years earlier when this came out. So they were like, well, we don't have Fred and Barney. What are we going to do? And they're like, the only logical way to make a movie is to make a prequel. So that's what they decided to do. They were like, we can't make a sequel because then people will expect the cast. But instead they made a prequel. I don't know if I don't know if that logic tracks, but that's what they were thinking.
It's also, what was it, double the budget of the first movie?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, it was when I was looking at the trivia, it was something like $80,000. I was looking at the Wikipedia, was what they spent on this.
It was 80 million.
80 million.
83 million for this, about 40 million for the first one.
Yeah.
Yup.
And this made combined box offices worldwide $59 million.
That sounds like it made too much. I'll be honest. 59 sounds too high.
Yeah. I feel like this is a Mobius 12 million. That's what this is. That's what this should be.
I understand why the executives were confused about this one not making more money, though, because if you've ever seen the first Flintstones movie, it is an irredeemable pile of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie made $350 million worldwide. So I'm sure that the executives looking at that were like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. I don't know. Give them more money.
If that pile of shit can make that much, like...
People like shit, I guess.
The whole world just got bamboozled by the first one, and then the second one came out, and they were like, not again. The whole world collectively was like, no.
Well,
no, we will not.
First one was 94, right? So that's... You have to put some context into when it came out. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What were the live-action cartoon movies around the time? Like... Not many that I can think of beyond, like, Who Framed Roger Rabbit and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
Also, honestly, John Goodman and Rick Moranis. Like,
and the cast, yeah.
Yeah, I want to see
alone.
John Goodman and Rick Moranis. I don't want to see guy I don't know and a Baldwin brother.
That was, Mark Addy and Stephen Baldwin.
God.
You know, the famous one. The good one.
Shep Baldwin from the Three Stooges.
Okay, I don't know if this is good for the pod or not, but I met Stephen Baldwin once, and he was introduced to me like, "Oh, Stephen, have you met Nick Filardi? He's like coloring our books." Like, it was extremely surreal. I was at like a publisher thing, and he was like, I guess, writing a book or like cozy with comics stuff for intellectual properties, Hollywood incestuous money stuff that was happening. And they were like, "Oh yeah, Stephen Baldwin, you should meet Nick Filardi." And I was just like, "Hi, I like Biodome.
I'm just Nick."
I don't know. Can I exit this immediately? That's what I want to do. Yeah.
You should have talked about Viva Rock Vegas. You would have
if I had known.
You'd know.
If I had known, I would have been like, big fan of Viva Rock Vegas, and he would have punched me
and then
in
he
the
would
face.
have fucking cratered to the ground.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I want to say it's really funny what they did with the cast of this. I mean, it feels like this one was a lot cheaper in some ways when you look at the cast, right?
Right.
Like, it doesn't make sense that its budget is doubled when you look at what the cast is, because it's Mark Addy is the new Fred Flintstone, who is actually not terrible.
No,
honestly.
He's not bad, but he's not a name. He's not a draw.
No, Stephen Baldwin is a horrible Barney. Like, just atrocious.
Absolutely
Barney.
bad, yeah.
And
it's
obviously those are...
The women, however...
that's what I was going to say.
Jane Kurakowski, I think I got her name right, who's Betty, and then Kristen...
Johnston,
yes. She's Wilma, and they're both so good. And they have more on-screen chemistry between each other than they do with Fred or Barney.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And that's what I was going to say, is that, like, it's so funny how much of a downgrade the men are and how much of an upgrade the two women are. Because it's like, from Rosie O'Donnell to Kirsten Johnston, it's like, man, you guys really upgraded. Kirsten Johnston's great. She's good in this, too.
They did bring Rosie back, and she looked great on set. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
all 8 arms.
They didn't make up her... They didn't put a whole lot of makeup on her like in the first movie. They just kind of let her be natural this time, and it really fit her.
Don't do this. Better than this. We're better than this at Ruff Cuts.
I'm not.
Small bit of trivia. Rosie O'Donnell was one of the only cast members that came back, but it was only to deliver a single line as a weird octopus masseuse.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like a puppet masseuse.
It was a one-line joke, quote-unquote joke, about the octopus who just found out what calamari is. That's it.
Wow.
That's the joke.
Yeah.
Calamari is squid, so it doesn't make sense. It doesn't even work.
Yeah. So what I find confusing about this film, other than everything, is that it's trying to have very adult themes, right? There's marriage, money, sex, a lot of sex,
classism,
like all these adult themes. But then they're also trying to be like, we're a goofy cartoon kind of, but not really. Like they don't commit to anything.
Yeah, the movie doesn't pick a lane and lean in. It's just like instead it tries to have it both ways, and it has no way. There's like nothing to grab onto as far as like, oh, well, maybe they're trying to make it like age it up, make it an adult comedy. Like, nope, they're not doing that. Oh, well, maybe they're going to lean into the cartoony stuff and make it really absurd. No, they're not really doing that either. And instead
it's nowhere.
It's nowhere.
Yeah, it's nowhere.
You just feel yourself aging. That's what you get.
I would respect it more if it was just like a goofy comedy with a bunch of dark drama in the Flintstones universe.
Right.
Like, but it isn't that. It isn't that.
No.
One of the biggest things that I was going to say about this is that it is the kind of the cardinal sin of a lot of really bad like movies for kids, because we were talking about like, man, this just is so stupid. It's constantly explaining to you too how stupid it is. Like it just hates its audience. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like somebody mentioned that it was very infantile early on.
Yes, I said
and
that.
Just how yes, and that's again one of the biggest mistakes that it seems that a lot of really bad kids movies make, where they look at kids and they're like, all right, well, it's for kids, so we've got to tell them 12 different times what's going on the screen. It's like, kids aren't that fucking stupid. I mean, you don't need to have everybody constantly look at the camera and go, well, you see, this is making me mad because I don't have any money. Like, it's that kind of thing.
If you make a good movie and a kid doesn't get it the first time, they watch it again. Like, kids rewatch stuff that they like. Like, you don't have to talk down to them. They'll get it eventually, even if they don't get it the first time.
I don't even think, like, I mean, when I was saying it was infantile, that wasn't just because it was talking down. It's also because characters are fucking stupid.
Yeah,
and they
that's
often
what I mean.
They often just do things like like Beavis and Butthead style, but with none of the writing, I guess.
Yeah.
Like they're just doing things like, oh wow, I'm so clumsy.
The crazy thing about this
right?
is that like Beavis and Butthead are made to be like unlikable idiots. You know, like terrible people. But I have more charm and heart for Beavis and Butthead than I ever did for Fred and Barney. Because
Fred and Barney try to do that, but they're just, I don't know what they're doing. It's just dumbest thing.
Oh man, should we explain the plot?
Yeah, I was gonna. We can get into this. That was the other thing I was going to say when you said that this movie is infantile and just how it's not about anything. For example, I have in my notes when it finally started the plot, which was like 50 minutes in, 55.
It was long.
There's just, for the whole first half of this movie, it is entirely Fred and Barney go, boy, I sure wish we had a job, and women. And then it shows them in a bunch of montages getting jobs, and then women.
Yeah,
Hooray.
like, they could just have it naturally happen, and they meet the characters, and they interact, and it blossoms. But instead they're like, well, this needs to happen, so we're going to tell you that it's happening, and then
it's
do
like
that.
It's like they wanted to make a rom-com, and then didn't know how to make a rom-com, and then at the end they want to make like a Vegas bad guy movie, and it's like two different movies and neither are successful. Like,
we've never noticed that some of these really bad movies are multiple films with no
cohesion.
Yeah, this has never been a problem before on the podcast.
It's like 45 minutes of one idea and then 45 minutes of another idea, and then the movie's over, and you're just like, oh God, what happened?
God, Boyks, have you ever, like, it's pretty incredible to finally, after having Nick on for like 6 times, actually have Nick on for the very first time.
I mean, we did this to Urchin with Garfield, too. So.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Where eventually they're like, oh, wait, this is what Ruff Cuts is. And it's like, yes, there you go, yeah. Now you understand all of the complaints that we always have about every fucking one of these movies.
Yeah.
Just, like, pick an idea. Pick a lane. Create a theme. It's not hard.
Well, the movie couldn't even stay within its own, like, time frame, right? Because they were also, like, referencing Aladdin for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, the cavemen know Aladdin. And that was weird.
They made a Jurassic Park joke at one point.
Park jokes.
And you're like,
what
are we watching? What are we watching?
Like, that's a joke for the audience, but it's not a good one. I don't know.
The joke should go
in all fairness, there was maybe 30 seconds of this entire film that was good.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain it to you right now. There's a part in the movie where the bad guy's trying to make his big reveal, and he's like, there's been a crime committed. And there's one guy in the background that's like, I have slowly been poisoning every dinosaur's water supply. I'm going to kill all the dinosaurs. And everyone's like, oh, you lovable scamp. And then he pops up 2 more times, and he's like, seriously, I'm killing all the dinosaurs. And they're like, oh, get out of here.
Oh, that goofball.
And that is the only reason to watch this movie. I have given you all of it.
Yeah, his last entrance of him going like, okay, I'm warning you, last time, if nobody stops me, every dinosaur dies. And everybody goes, no one cares! And he like slumps off scene, and it's so good.
It's a good bit. I wish that this movie had more jokes. Like, that was the only it was that, and then there was a giant switch in the casino operator. Cause he had a giant switch that went from win to lose for everybody in the casino. That bit was a good visually funny gag, but like, other than that, just empty.
Can you believe that Nick came on our podcast and explained both of the only jokes in this movie?
Now what am I going to talk about?
Yeah. Scooped them up.
Now what do we do? Fuck.
Now we talk about how marriage is a prison.
Well, okay, so we could talk about that, because that's what the movie's basically about. But the movie is also about, like, trying to watch your grandparents flirt on screen for hours.
I mean, I have a note about how they
focused.
I have the note about how they creamed that woman a lot.
Barney did cream that lady all over her face and chest. Yeah, that's true.
All of the men in the movie kept on creaming on her over and over.
To be fair,
yeah.
Barney creamed that woman, but then the waiter came by and he wanted to get in on the action. He also creamed that woman.
Yeah.
He creamed her way more than Barney did.
Yeah.
To be fair,
and
Barney
Betty was
doing it out of his mouth.
So,
it was just like, Barney's whole thing was secondhand. Like, he did it from the mouth afterwards. So,
okay, so
we're just not going to explain that, right?
I don't give a shit about that. So the plot, I can explain the plot in 2 minutes. I really can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
there's no plot. There's no plot. So the whole plot is, like, Wilma is a rich lady who is in a family of Southern gentlemen who looks down on all the poors. But Wilma doesn't look down on the poors, so she goes to live with the poors to be a poor. And then Betty, who's a poor, takes her in because she thinks she's homeless. And then they meet Fred and Barney, and they go to a theme park, and now they're dating or whatever. But Wilma has...
Okay, we're now 45 minutes in, yep.
Yeah, this is the first 45.
But Wilma has an ex named Chip who keeps grabbing her and kissing her forcefully, and that's funny. And she doesn't like it, so Fred sticks up for her, and then they're going to date or whatever. But then Dino shows up. Dino's in this movie. There's a dog in this movie.
Dino's very good in this movie. He shows up to the rich dinner and just fucks it all up, and it's just like it's very. It feels good. Feels
and
good.
This is the turning point where Wilma's like, I'm gonna abandon my family and just go live with Fred. Fuck all these people. But then Chip comes out and is like, hey, you know what? I was a dick in there, making fun of the poors, which you are, Fred. You're poor. I just wanted to point that out again. So I'm going to let you come to my casino in Viva Rock Vegas and make a bunch of money so you aren't poor, so that Wilma will love you for your money. Because that's the only thing women like.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, funny. And then they go to Vegas. A bunch of shit happens. Chip tries to get Fred into massive debt, which he does.
Well, first he makes him rich so that Wilma doesn't like him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess.
the plan is make him rich so that Wilma will be like, I don't want to date a rich guy, and then you make him poor and a criminal. Also, by the way, the bad guy, nothing against Barney. However, Barney is also in the same boat for some reason. It's just
he's there.
Have you seen
he's
Barney?
there?
I have something against this Barney, and I've only just watched
Okay, no,
so
I know why Barney's
kind
in the
of
same boat.
here
It's
for the
because
villain.
Barney and Fred are roommates.
Yeah.
That's why.
They keep getting very close to kissing. Like, the tension between these two characters.
There is an extreme amount of homoeroticism in this film.
You know,
not just between Barney and Fred, by the way.
Like, if this movie was better, I'd be like, Happy Pride Month.
Yeah, right?
But it's not. It's not good enough. It's not good enough for that.
Because there's so many moments where, like, Betty and Wilma are living together. They're roommates. They're just very close roommates where they constantly touch each other, put on each other's makeup, and take baths together.
It's the meme of, like, the tall girl lifting the short girl against the wall. That is Betty and Wilma.
Well, and it honestly is perfectly cast because Kristen Johnston is massive compared to Jane.
Yeah, to Jane. Yeah.
So, like, absolutely would work.
It is 100% that meme.
Yeah, and every scene ends with them like, I'm gonna go get naked. I'll see you in a bit. And then Wilma's like talking to her mother or something, and then goes back to her love life with Betty. Like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
it's
glad.
really disappointing. They could have done so many cool things with this, and they just don't.
Yeah.
So he makes him rich, and
the
then
bad
doesn't
guy
make him rich, and then
he's
in debt to the mob, so he needs Fred to be in debt. So
which is like a backstory that we don't even need. Like the whole mob thing, like he's trying to marry Wilma for the family money, but it's like, dude, I don't care about this guy. I don't need his motivation. He's a bad dude who wants to marry Wilma. That's all I need. This whole mob thing, like, we don't even need it in the script. It's like, why is it here? It gets introduced like an hour and 15 minutes in. It's like, this is he's not a bad guy. He's just being extorted by the mob. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, what are we doing?
It's really funny that they managed to put in so little plot and also too much even then.
Right.
Like, somehow they still have extraneous shit that you're like, I don't give a fuck.
The whole bit with the Great Gazoo is like, he wants to watch, like, Earthlings
he wants to
fuck.
watch.
He wants to watch. He wants to watch. And he shows up, and you think that he is going to be like the driving force of the movie. Like, I'm going to get these
he's the opening scene.
He's the opening scene. You figure he's the driving force of the movie. You think he's going to be like, I'm going to work my magic to kind of like get these idiots together. And then he just exits the movie. Like, he does not do anything to further the plot ever for the entire movie.
Nope.
I don't know why he was there.
Well, it's because Tim Cummings liked to watch.
Alan? Is Tim Allen's father?
Alan, whatever his name is. I don't fucking care.
There were a lot of little aliens in the beginning. There might be Tim in there. I don't know.
Yeah, Tim might be there. But like,
I don't know.
The thing about that too is that what was his like Gazoo's motivation? He gets sent down to Earth to do
to watch the Earthling mating ritual. That was the
he
whole.
wants to watch Earthlings
But then,
mate.
like,
Yes.
You would think that the movie would end with him coming back to the spaceship and being like,
because that was his whole plot, right?
The
He was like,
conquering
I
hero.
want to leave. I want to leave Earth. I need to
be
get off this planet.
specific, he didn't want to just watch Earthlings mate. He wanted to record them on videotape and then play it for all the rest of the Gazoos.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need to get that pterodactyl camera in there and chiseling out.
But instead, it's just like, he's just like, oh, I showed up and now I'm here. And then he's like, and
now
I'm
what?
still here, I guess.
We did get to see,
and then everybody dances at the end, like it's a
they
fucking
do dance
victory lap
for some reason.
God damn it!
The point is, like, Fred and Barney cross dress, which impresses the girls, and also Mick Jagger's there for some reason.
Mick Jagged, please.
Yeah, not real Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger would not touch this thing.
The most British caveman they could find.
Oh God!
Because they hate the Brits. Which has some other fucking plot with Betty. I don't give a shit. They
get the bad guy, like he's trying to marry Wilma, but then Fred makes a giant gesture in this giant set piece song that's fucking awful.
It's so bad.
It's the whole movie leads to this song to win Wilma back, and you're just like, every second of it, it's like I can feel my teeth. Like, this is awful. This is awful. And he wins her back, and then the movie ends in a dance number.
Yes, and they get married, or whatever.
And presumably, Chip has his, fingers chopped off by the mob.
Yeah, it's implied Chip just fucking dies. Which,
Chip just fucking dies.
Good for him.
They went out of their way to be like, Chip's not such a bad guy. He's just being extorted by the mob. And then they're like, so anyway, we killed him. And it's just like, what?
Well,
what?
The thing I find weird about the mob situation, too, is they already set him as a bad guy, as a misogynist, like, money grabber. Why?
Yeah.
That apparently was not
there?
bad? That was not bad. They needed something bad for him to do.
The mob is there to show off the cool cactus duds that they were wearing.
The cactus costumes were pretty good, though. Actually,
yeah, they were pretty good.
They were fucking terrible, but they were like Jamiroquai in Virtual Insanity terrible.
Yeah,
which I'm here for.
Yes, yeah.
Extremely enjoyable.
Giant fuzzy hat, terrible. Yeah. I'm like, hell yeah.
The only joy you're gonna find in this thing is in the costume design and the set design, all that stuff. This fucking movie. I'm just kind of like realizing the scope of like the first 45 minutes don't go anywhere. It's just them dating for like no reason. There's no forward momentum of the plot. There's no conflict. There's no nothing. They're just going on dates and montaging. They're like, they built an entire drive-through in like the Stone Age kind of thing. They built this giant set
and
with
they did
all
almost
these
nothing
extras,
with it. Yeah.
Cars, everything, and it's just like they're just kind of like skating around and then delivering a few lines, and then they move on to the next thing, and they never even come back to it. It's a massive set, and it's just wasted.
All right, I have some things I want to point out that I wrote down from the movie. Wilma's dad is a Confederate colonel.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, I don't know why that needed to be there. We learned the history about how Wilma got that pearl necklace. The most important question anybody has ever had about the Flintstones.
Are you going to let us know? What's the history?
It was her grandmother's, who is a clam.
Mm-hmm.
Which means Wilma's family evolved from clams. Great.
They're old money.
Your explanation got the same reaction.
I fucking guess.
When we saw it for the first time, we're just like, all right.
Is that
all right? Yeah,
Wait,
I guess.
Was that a joke?
Are they implying that her her grandparents were clams? Was that?
I
like that. Everybody asked me that. They're like, wait, because Nick paused. He's like, wait, did that? What were they trying to say there? I'm like, I'm pretty sure they were saying their grandparents were clams or like.
But why?
Like oysters?
What does that mean?
I don't think that works that way. I don't know.
There was the scene at the bar where they milk a kappa, and they compress a kappa.
Yeah,
create milk.
Right. I forgot about that. They use them as like an orange
juicer.
Juicer.
Yeah, what the
thing.
fuck was that about?
I don't
Why?
know, man.
That made me very uncomfortable to watch.
You ever want to see a dinosaur get juice all over it and be kind of like tied up a little bit?
All sweet and sticky.
Yeah, this movie's for you.
You know how in Spaceballs, where they showed Spaceballs and they made a joke about, what are we watching? This, right here, now, this movie. They do that here, but way worse. They show the same film, because the Great Gazoo likes to record when they do the mating rituals.
He likes to watch.
Yeah, what was that about? Okay.
You know who didn't like to watch? Nick Filardi. He didn't like to watch this entire movie. Why did you do this to me?
And for some reason, they thought it was a really good idea to put a joke in about a rock star dating a really young girl and have to ask her age.
Man. Okay, yeah, I was gonna go through all of my notes. Like, for example, how old are you?
Yeah, wow, funny.
We've all been there, right, guys? God, that's what the movie's trying to do, though.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so fucking insulting.
Yeah.
Ugh. It's uncomfortable.
Yes, that's what these... Again, that's like the whole... When we were talking about the marriage thing and me being a wedding photographer and everything, you constantly at these things, you're always getting people that are like, oh, you work with your wife, huh? I don't like that. And you're like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Is that what...
I like my wife. I married
her.
Yeah. Like, I don't...
But it's always this implication that you're one of the people like them that would enjoy these things and have these things happen to you, and it's like, that's extra insulting.
Right,
it's very much like, oh, hey, you've had this happen to you, right, guys? Where it's like, oh, man, she's maybe a little too young. It's like, no, I've never had that happen. That's fucking despicable.
Never been a situation I've been in.
Are guys basically like the Old Country Buffet meat carver training video where he's like, pitch game last night? Still hot out there?
How's that weather?
Try the meatloaf, it's my favorite. Or the lasagna, that's what it is. The lasagna, it's my favorite.
God.
Just making small talk all the time with no
We should have watched that training video instead of
that would have been a better video. Yeah. I don't have a lot of other... Did you have notes?
I had one of the other notes that I had was just, and we mentioned it earlier, but I wanted to once again kind of hammer it home a little bit, that even when they have the hero, Fred, who's winning over Wilma because it's like, well, she doesn't care about money. And so he doesn't have to have money to impress her. But then they take that the wrong way. Because then Fred is talking to Gazoo, and it's like, well, like, why do you like Wilma? He's like, well, I don't have to do anything to impress her. And it's like, no, that's okay. You don't need money to impress it. You still should do nice things for her, though.
No, he likes her because he doesn't have to put any effort into the relationship.
Right, yeah, he's just like, I can just be a schlub and not give a shit. And she's like, she's into it. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what she's into.
Is like, hey, I don't know, I can be a giant piece of shit and just lay on the couch, and she's kind of like, oh, I can't do any better than this. And he's like, and it's great.
I had one other note. This one's a little more serious. So there are some other characters we noticed. We noticed Spike Spiegel, a.k.a. Cowboy Bebop, show up as a valet. John Cho, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yep.
And that was fun to see Bebop there.
Yeah.
But in relation to that, all of the minorities in this movie are like valets.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
They're all like cleaners. Like they're all background actors, but like for menial jobs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or thugs specifically.
But the thugs that got lines, the cactus crew
mobsters.
of gangsters, they were white guys because they got lines.
They got lines, yeah. And I'm like,
yeah.
So this is exactly a movie for the 50s white crowd that doesn't put any effort into anything in their relationships and hates their wives? Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, that is the Flintstones.
I mean, hates their wives, but also it's about being in the marriage, like, and being like you can't escape the marriage. You have to just get into it and stay there and then hate it, and that's the function
for the rest of your life.
That's the entire function. Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to be accurate for old Vegas. When they go to Vegas, they go to like the jazz club, and it is a bunch of black entertainers and like and then like Mexican waiters, and that's
I
what
almost
you get.
didn't want to point it out, but like it's so blatant.
It's
that I
very
feel like I
so
have
blatant. Yeah.
Every single I can get like every waiter in the movie, and I mean every single waiter is Mexican. Like every single person that like yep, it's like yep. Every waiter is brown, every entertainer is black, and all of the main characters and anybody that speaks is white, and it's like whoo, that is some hard lines. Like
this
it's
is 2000.
obvious. Yeah.
This is 2000. Yeah. Like how would you not notice when doing your casting unless you intentionally cast it that way?
Well, you see, they intentionally cast it that way.
Right, well, yeah. Somebody made a decision at some point in the chain about this.
And then you throw in, like, the Confederate grandfather and other shit, and I'm like, man, who the fuck was this for?
Yeah, this movie dances around a lot of really terrible shit in American culture, for sure.
Mm-hmm. But it wants to talk about class. That's what upsets me the most.
Yeah, yeah. It wants to talk about class, and it never really talks about class. It's just like, oh, Wilma's happier being poor, and that's the moral. And
that's
it's like,
the moral.
Oh, should that be the moral though? Like, maybe just accepting, sharing wealth, like all that stuff. Like maybe class is an imaginary thing between two people, and all people are the same kind of thing. Like maybe that should be the moral. Nope. This movie's like, nope.
Yeah, there's nothing wholesome or thoughtful here. No,
they took a fucking victory lap at the end. They danced at the end like we were all having a good time. It offends me. It offends me.
I really like that the core of the movie in so many ways is about class, and Wilma in particular as her character. And her solution to the problem of she's wealthy, and that means that like her and everyone else around her is exploiting those people and looking down on them. Her answer to that is to take all of her power and privilege and position and do absolutely nothing with it and leave.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that she could do, right?
To quietly slum it with the poors. And then eventually get access to the money eventually.
Until they accept her.
Yeah. Yeah. Or when her parents die.
Or whatever.
Nope. Yeah. She just wants to slum it up, but she's got no actual movement on doing anything to improve any of these people's lives, to help them, to like, these are her friends. They're poor. Yeah. They're looking for jobs at the beginning of this. They're not certain that they can find jobs. And her solution to all of this is to pretend to first be homeless and then do nothing.
I guess. Well, no.
It's movies.
I still have a couple things I want to talk about before we get into
sorry.
So, first of all, Nick, you were noticing some Rotten Tomatoes reviews. So Rotten Tomatoes, by the way, 25% on the tomato meter. We don't usually talk about the tomato meter in more recent films because we don't usually watch a lot of big budget movies that really need it. But 20% on 25,000 plus audience reviews.
Yep.
So very low. So what were some of the reviews that you found?
One that I found from a top critic said, "No surprises here, better than the original."
That's what's surprising.
the another one that I found that I enjoyed, the quote is, "The prequel is like eating a second helping of underdone Bronto burger and being kept awake by the resulting indigestion induced Dolly-esque nightmare. That was not a favorable review.
That one I feel like is complaining about the set design in a way, and I'm like,
maybe I saw some people in like the user reviews talk about how like all the sets look cheap, and I was like, they definitely do not. They don't understand how things are made. Like,
nope.
Yeah, no,
these sets
incredibly
look fantastic.
expensive. Yeah,
yeah,
and also. She is overselling it because being kept awake by the resulting like Dolly-esque nightmare. I'd love to watch that movie. I wish that I was in a Dolly-esque nightmare. That would at least be exciting. This was boring.
Man. Yeah, I watched Mulholland Drive before this, and also like two different movies. Like first half is one thing, second half is another thing, but it goes together. It's cohesive. There's themes. You understand everything at the end, kind of, like, I don't know, man. This movie.
So I did find a review, because I was looking through the user reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I wanted to point this out, because we're elderly gentlemen. I wanted to get the view of a tween watching this film. So I found a tween review from 2013, which is 13 years after this film came out.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
5 stars.
All right. You got my attention.
All right. One of the best movies I've ever seen. Heart emoji. OMFG. 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 Triple heart emoji. It's also one of my favorites, smiley face, but that's just my opinion. I'm really into classic movies like this one.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
I think that all those phones are destroying society. I'm turning into a person that's going to watch this movie and enjoy it. All these kids and their fucking phones.
Okay. So you're in a roundabout way. You're bringing up a point that I was thinking about during this movie, which is there's a lot of comedies and media that's made where like it's a comedy. And they'll kind of dance around a joke or a situation, but it won't actually be funny. There won't actually be a joke there. Shannon and I are picking at How I Met Your Father, the new version of How I Met Your Mother.
How I Met Your Mother? Why?
And it is painful to watch in points. It is they're just completely barren of jokes. And I was like, man, they're really making like another one that we chipped away at a little bit was Call Me Kat, which is another like mainstream network comedy show with no actual fucking jokes in it. And the thing is I was like, man, they're really making a lot of these, maybe like media saturation, like they can't find enough good writers to like get these things off the ground. It's a real shame. Not like the old days where like, they had crack teams of writers and everything had like a higher bar of quality. And I just want to say that this movie completely shattered that notion.
No.
And that there are no jokes through this whole thing. And it is all trash. And it is the same kind of like no joke comedy that like we're getting nowadays in other stuff.
You know what this reminds me the most of? And it's going to be very stupid. It's going to be very... Same as it ever was.
Yeah.
This is not My Beautiful Wife. No. So what this reminds me of the most, actually, is the Night Court reboot that they did.
Oh
recently.
Man, that's another jokeless
because they brought back fucking Night Court with no jokes and a lot of racism.
Yeah, the ideal audience for this is your like 65-year-old boss at work who has a mug that says "World's #1 Boss" on his desk, or like, and a poster on the side that's like, "I hate Mondays." And it's just like it's that dude. It's that dude and his humor. Where, like, he's got a thing on the wall that it's a plaque in a circle that says, "Around to it. Now that I've finally gotten around to it, now I can do all the things that I wanted." Like, he's got that. It's the live, laugh, love dad. That's what this is. That's who the audience is.
He has, like, a sign that says, like, "Complainers will be shot."
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, now I think we're ready to rate the dogs, because I have nothing else to say about it. I hate this fucking movie.
I figured that now is a really good time for me to bring up the exact moment because you've probably forgotten it, just like we did in the movie. Gazoo!
Remember when the Great Gazoo was here?
Yeah.
Mommy's here.
What happened to that?
I'm going.
It's just abandoned for now.
He's gonna break them out. There's gonna be Deus Ex Kazoo.
Wilma?
Yeah.
I've already talked to Jim,
They-
and he's willing to take you back.
They just ew.
Gives you the right to interfere with
They just stopped caring about that plot, I guess.
And I love you. And Chip.
No, he'll, like I said, he's gonna
loves
come back
money.
in.
Oh, and you have money.
And I guess it's not really
It's
Deus
a
Ex and
match
they've been
made in
setting
heaven.
him up the whole movie. But I've been trying to forget him
Look,
the
I
whole
think he's
movie, so I
already
think it
through
evens
with
out.
He has saved you from.
It's extremely disturbing.
Not a beast. He was just raised by them.
Fred and Barney are in prison, and Gazoo's there, and they're like, "Hey, use your powers to get us out." And he's like, "I can't intervene." And then Barney just wiggles out of in between the bars of the cage, goes to get the keys. The guard starts waking up, and then he intervenes. Gazoo intervenes and knocks out the guard. And I'm just like, this whole movie is very frustrating to watch. That's the only thing he did the entire movie. And he's supposed to be the bookend of this whole thing, and instead it's a dance number. I can't with this fucking movie.
I give Gazoo a 0 out of 10 because it made me uncomfortable to look at it. All moments of the time of the film. And that one time he got closer to the camera, I wanted to get out of my chair and leave.
Yeah.
You see, I finally understand your complex mating rituals. All the emotions. All this love.
Please don't get closer to the
Gazoo, please back off. I'm not gonna rate Gazoo. I'm just gonna put in the 2 different times that Nick and I had the exact same reaction to Gazoo at the exact same moment. So I'm just gonna leave it to you for that.
Yeah.
One of them was when Gazoo first showed up, and then the next one was where you said Gazoo. They zoomed in on Gazoo, and Nick and I both went, no, back.
Yeah, you reeled in your chair. Yeah, that's like when I watched Cats and I ended up in the fetal position.
Yeah, right.
This
exactly.
had a very
trying to get
strong
away from the
cat
screen.
CGI
Yeah.
energy.
Dino is a dog. Absolutely a dog.
Absolutely
I
a
will not
dog.
take anybody saying Dino is not a dog. I've seen this movie.
And voiced by a good boy.
Just
Mel
like all
Blanc.
dogs, they hatch from eggs. Like the
Mel
Hal
had
Laboratory
been-
side.
Mel had been dead for years by the time this movie came out, but they used his voice from the original animated show, and
That's because Mel knew they were
repurposed
going to
it.
make this, and he decided it was a better fate.
Yeah, probably.
But Dino is an adorable little puppy. Loves Fred. Crashes aristocratic parties and says down with the bourgeoisie.
Excellent.
Like the opposite of Beverly Hills Chihuahua.
All I want now is just a box art of Viva Rock Vegas that just says, the movie that killed Mel Blanc.
Finally. Yes.
Finally.
Just pull quote that one. We
Yes.
did it. We finally killed him. We ended him. He's done. At long
Absolutely.
last, Mel can finally rest.
One other thing I want to point out, I'm looking at the Viva Rock Vegas toys for Burger King Big Kids meals.
Oh no.
Like,
There
I
was a
think you
Burger
would
King
do.
tie-in. There's a BK. That's where
there
they
was
worked.
a BK.
Yeah.
They did not go for the movie accurate styling of the characters.
Of course they didn't. They were like, remember Flintstones? Not the movie coming out. The regular Flintstones. The one you actually care about.
Yes. That is what they did. And I feel like that kind of bookends our conversation about this movie. They should have done fucking that if they were going to do anything.
It's weird that they have this successful thing and they keep trying to not make that thing.
Yeah.
That's true of like pretty much all of the live action cartoon remakes that happened in like the early aughts to like, because they did that. There was a good decade, right? From like 2000, from about honestly kind of when the first Flintstones movie came out. Maybe that's what we have to blame. Maybe the first Flintstones movie started all this shit because that actually was a success.
Yeah. I don't know.
But all of those are like
Disney keeps trying to do it too, and it's like,
I guess
this isn't as good as the animated stuff. I don't know.
I have a very important question. Do we have $4,000 to $6,000 in our Patreon? Because I found something that we could purchase. It is a Dino Puppy Puppet from Viva Rock Vegas at a prop store.
Oh no!
The one used in the film.
It's the actual one used in the film. I don't see how you don't. How you can't.
I don't see how
that.
we don't own that.
Yeah,
we have to now. Yeah.
This static foam puppet was created for insert shots and hand painted in Dino's signature purple with a blue collar, 3 black hairs, a fresh color snout, and black spots by Jim Henson's Creature Shop.
It was Jim Henson that did the puppets then.
The puppet is bolted to a dense foam display labeled The Flintstones and painted to appear made of stone. Wow, that's good sentencing.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
that is something we should point out. The puppets were Jim Henson, like, company, anyway.
Yeah.
And they look like it. They do.
They look good.
Like, they're good puppets, but...
Yes, the sets and everything are fantastic. The CG is terrible because it's 2000, but honestly, for 2000, it was fine.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you, Nick, for guesting. Is there anything you want to plug before we do our outro here?
I've got my own podcast called World's Second Finest. We talk about Batman comics that are coming out every week we're in like the mid 90s, 1995. And then we also talk about any other comics that we're reading and enjoying. Like I just read Hellphone from a Silver Sprocket, which is about 2 girls who find an old flip phone that apparently connects them to hell, and they're on the trail of like solving a murder, and they're kind of over it the whole time. It's very fun. I also read Fart School, which is about going to art school in the 2000s. That gave me a mild panic attack. So, fun stuff. We're probably going to bring those to the pod.
Kind of just like the farting brontosaurus we saw in this movie. Yeah,
exactly like that. It's uncanny. So I'm working on that. That's World's Second Finest Pod. And then also the Blink trade paperback is out. If you like actual horror instead of like the existential dread of the Flintstones Viva Rock Vegas, that is a found footage horror book. It's very, very good. It's one of my favorite things that I've made in the last few years. A bunch of other stuff coming out.
So it's more like monsters rather than sitting there looking and going, wow, I'm aging out. I'm going to be a
right.
That's a sort of horror.
How am I so conscious of time?
I'm going to be in an old folks' home at some point, and my brain's just going to have Barney as Stephen Baldwin playing over and over as he does a dance number. I'm going to remember this for my grandkids.
If you want links to everything, it's linktree.com/NickFil. That'll have links to my Discord, the podcast, everything, everywhere.
Yeah, and as a Batman expert, we found out that this prequel is exactly like the Batman prequel, Year One.
So,
no, I cannot commit to that. Year One is one of the best made comics ever. You madman.
If you like Viva Rock Vegas,
for 30 years and it's
a
classic.
Batman Year One.
I will not stand for this.
Before we started, I was like, has a guest ever not come back to talk about the movie they just watched? Just like completely bailed on this whole thing.
I mean, that would have been funny, though.
But I don't know how.
Yeah, that would have been funny. But
I thought that Slow Beef might have.
Slow Beef was close. Slow Beef was close. Yeah, that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. You can check us out on social media at Ruff Cuts Cast on Twitter, as well as co-host at Ruff Cuts. I believe also Cast, right? I don't remember.
No, just
Ruff Cuts. You can email us, roughcutscast@gmail.com, as well as check out our TikTok, which is something that the kids use, I guess. I'm not old, you're old. And
what about that wife, the old ball and chain, huh?
Fucking A.
He went off to the buffet with some showgirl.
A showgirl?
Barney can't be eating food with other women. Oh.
You know, when they say all you can eat, they don't mean till you explode.
I'm just getting started.
Great.
Excellent.
Ooh, look at the size of that pie. Waiter.
Yeah, I don't know. Barney seems like a pretty big catch. This is pretty good.
Oh man, I thought Barney had shoved up a lot of white stuff in this woman's face, but then suddenly the waiter came along and
yeah,
he really dumped a load, huh?
Yeah,
it's all over both of them.
Man, she's got cream all over her from multiple men.
Oh man,
his girlfriend's watching. Everybody,
watching from the corner,
creamed out.
Watching her,
Jesus,
yeah, watching her get creamed. Wow.